welcome back to But Why Love the Podcast, and today we're talking about Mass Effect. As always, I'm Kate, and I'm here with Adrian.
Hey, how's it going?
And Matt.
Hello.
And we have a special guest, Josh, co-founder of Bear Punch Media, host of Massively Affected, which is the latest podcast in our community.
Hi there.
Hello.
Happy to finally have you on.
I'm excited. I get to talk to you guys and, podcast times. It's great.
I will say, whenever we bring guests on, we like to ask them, why you're here to talk about this thing. So yeah, Josh, why are you here to talk about this thing?
Well, as Kate mentioned, I am the host of a show called Massively Affected. Mass Effect is just in a big part of my career. As mentioned, I am the host of Massively Affected, and I got my start talking Mass Effect pretty much. My entire podcast was centered initially around talking about that 9 years ago. And yeah, now I center a lot of my conversations on asking people why they enjoy Mass Effect. So that's why.
Well, that fits completely into what we're going to talk about here today, which is why Mass Effect matters. And in a shock to no one, actually maybe a shock to some people, because I don't talk about Mass Effect that much. I think I do on this podcast, but not that much in general online. I'm going to be leading us through today's episode. And our first question is, Paragon, Renegade, or mixed?
So first of all, I thought you did a whole entire panel on Mass Effect, so I don't understand why you act like you don't talk about it.
I did. No, but I don't... Okay, there's a difference. I don't talk about it online as much. Kind of in the same way as hey, I am clearly a fan of Tolkien because of my handle, but I don't talk about it with people that much.
That's fair. I also don't feel like it's brought up that much, when we talk about our gaming episodes and things like that.
Yeah.
Which we'll go into later. Why not?
Oh, sir. Expect at least one rant from Matt today, guys. Which is good, because he's missed a couple of episodes. That's how he pays, in rants.
Sure.
But yeah, so Paragon, Renegade, or a mix?
Well, for me, I started out playing Renegade. I was always the person who liked to play the evil, the bad guy, that kind of stuff in games and things. And I never understood when I would see people be like, oh, it's so hard for me to play Renegade and things like that. So I ultimately played everything, but I would play Renegade or a slight mix. I'm trying now, actually, on a Legendary Edition playthrough, do Renegade, and it turns out I'm a nicer person than I used to be. It's actually way harder than it was when I was younger. So I'd say mix at this point.
Adrian?
Yeah, I'm pretty mixed as I am in most of these kind of games. Unless I'm playing Star Wars, I'm going full dark side because they have cooler powers
Sure.
when you go dark side. But I'm usually pretty mixed. I'd probably say more Paragon with some renegade things, because if some guy pulls a gun on me, I'm shooting him in the face. I'm not talking that guy down.
Did you punch the reporter?
Yes. Of course you punched the reporter, yeah. So probably more Paragon, a little bit of Renegade, but overall just mix. Kind of whatever the situation feels like is what I'm going with. More so what I would do if I was a Commander Shepard in this world with laser pistols and, dickhead aliens. So
Matt?
I'm going to go with none, because despite how many times I've tried to play this game, I don't understand why people like this. And I guess I'll start the episode with this is the most overrated franchise of all time. And that's how we're going to go with this whole episode.
And now you know why I asked to have a guess.
So I'm going to go with none, because despite the 5 times and probably the at least 15 hours I've attempted to try to play these games, I don't get it.
Well, hopefully by the end of the episode we can at least share a little bit as to why you get it, although if 176 episodes aren't enough evidence, we probably won't. I will say for me, I'm a good mix. I would say that I mostly go Paragon for the most part, only because there are certain dialogue options that get kind of locked away. But my first playthrough, I didn't realize that, so I played a little bit better. But I have playthroughs on all of them. So I have the Paragon playthrough where it's straight Paragon, the Renegade playthrough where it's straight Renegade, and then I have a mixed perspective, which is kind of the Kate playthroughs, I like to say. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Paragon and Renegade morality system. We get into the but why those and mechanics of the game. Fun fact: Renegade means a hell of a lot different things in 1 and 2 than it does in 3, because it jumps from punching the reporter to genocide. So, without further ado, let's talk space things. So here's the history. Mass Effect is a science fiction, action, role-playing, third-person shooter series released for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, with the third installment also being released on the Wii U. The fourth game, Mass Effect Andromeda, was released on Windows, PS4, and Xbox One in 2017. The series started in 2007. So the first game was released in 2007. It sees Shepard investigating Saren, whom Shepard slowly comes to understand is operating under the guidance of Sovereign, a Reaper left behind in the Milky Way tens of thousands of years before, when the Reapers exterminated virtually all sentient organic life in the galaxy as part of a recurrent cycle of genocide for unknown purposes. The second game takes place 2 years later and sees Shepard battling the Collectors, an alien race abducting entire human colonies in a plan to help the Reapers return to the Milky Way. Fun fact, you died before this, so you're like a reanimated Shepard now. You also lose whatever romance you had in the first one half the time, too. The final game of Shepard's trilogy centers on the war being waged against the Reapers. And then the fourth installment takes place in Andromeda Galaxy and features a new cast of characters 600 years in the future. They follow the Pathfinder through colonizing the new galaxy and dealing with a Ket. The series itself is highly regarded for its narrative, character development, voice acting, universe, and emphasis on player choice affecting the experience. And it takes a lot of the things that we love about sci-fi in general and pulls it into a very into its own world. And before we jump into the but why those and the mechanics, I do kind of want to ask like why y'all started playing in the first place, like what kind of drew you to this game. Because I didn't come into the game until until 3 was almost released, because I actually don't like sci-fi games that much at all, which is a shocker because I like Star Wars. And so like I just kind of want to know like what got y'all to pick up the game.
I could hop in first. So yeah, for me it's interesting because I consider myself a long-standing BioWare fan, at least for the BioWare of old. But the funny thing is, when I think of games pre-Mass Effect, I'm not sure I can actually think of a BioWare game I super like. I'm one of the people who thinks KOTOR was perfectly fine and but not amazing or anything like that.
And this is
So
where I leave. Just kidding.
no, that's where everyone leaves when I bring this up. I don't really bring this up in conversation. This may be the first time I'm publicly saying that. I like it a lot. I played through multiple playthroughs, but it just wasn't the end all be all for me. So I don't really know why I had this BioWare, I don't know, not fandom hookup kind of thing to it, but yeah, I saw something about Mass Effect, and it was specifically it was before the game came out, and it was something of the note related to that the plan was that you were going to be able to carry your save data forward. That was how they planned to work with it, and that aspect of the save data was exciting to me. That's actually, I tend to buy a lot of games based on that promise that never really comes to fruition. And yeah, so I picked up Mass Effect because of that and got hooked on it. It was late in the first game when I finally got like hooked on it.
I'm pretty sure I started playing because Kate told me to. I'm pretty sure is where this is at for me.
If I remember correctly, that is also true.
Yeah, I think it was like after like the Mass Effect, or after our BioWare. I don't remember which episode it was, but yeah, I played because Kate said it was really fun, and I trust Kate's opinions on video games, so I played it and really liked it. But I just never finished it because we moved, and then we had like this whole like discourse about like the ending of the game. It was like, oh, I don't want to play off this game, and then like not like the ending, so I'm gonna stop where I'm having fun. But yeah.
And we'll get into the ending stuff because I have strong feelings, and I will say, in the world currently, I have actually met more fans who liked the ME3 ending than I have fans who hated it, which is something that I don't know is like one of those like distance things, but Yeah. And Matt, why did you want to play it and why did you stop playing it?
I was told I was supposed to play it because I liked RPGs and it was great and fantastic. And then obviously it never looked that intriguing. But then I did end up playing, like, I don't know if it was before one of my attempts playing, but I played Dragon Age, which I think comes out about a year or two after this one, which is
Dragon Age was 09, Mass
Yeah.
Effect was 07.
Yeah, so, 'cause I know it comes out a little after, and I was like, I love Dragon Age Origins, and so I was like, you know what, finally I'll give this a chance, the first one, and I didn't like it at all, for lots of reasons. And then I remember we went and bought a game. It was funny because obviously I tried playing Mass Effect 1 about, like, I think 3 times over the course of stuff, and then Mass Effect 2 comes out, and everybody's like, this is the greatest thing in the world or something or whatever. And then I remember we went to go buy, I don't remember what game it was, my brother and I, in which they gave us the free Mass Effect 2 with it, came with it. And it was like this bonus thing. And I was like, you know what? It's a free game. We got to take advantage of it. And then I remember we trying to play it. And they were like, I wonder if we can just take it back and give it back. Even though it was free, because this was ass. And then we just never, and so then after that, like after giving those tries, like, I'm just done. And then obviously Mass Effect 3 came out. And by that time I didn't care. And then obviously the whole ending stuff that ended up happening. And I was like, I'm out of this.
This hurts my soul so much. I do like to know that it is at least not like what was revealed on like for anime, that somebody just kept you from playing it. But so that's at least good. At least you've tried. But like when we get into the but why those, one of the reasons why this is a game that a lot of people say that you should play, and one of the reasons why people fall in love with it is the mechanics. So it has pretty standard RPG mechanics. So while various features of gameplay are varied across the series, and this is very specific. Mass Effect 1, technically speaking, is a very different game than Mass Effect 2 and 3. Like, it has a different, more intricate system with weapons and armor that you don't necessarily see carry out throughout the rest of the series. And so there are varying pieces there. But the standard things is that Mass Effect games, because they are action role-playing games, you get the chance to customize your version of the character. Shepard, you can choose the default femme shep or male shep. And it's funny because I definitely have met more people who play female shep than not, which is interesting. And then for Mass Effect Andromeda, you play Ryder, but either way, you are making the protagonist of the game. Pretty straightforward. It's based on physical appearance. You also craft their background story. And then you get to choose one of 6 character classes, with each class centered around 1 to 2 specializations in combat technology or biotic, which is like the magic in the game. This establishes a skill tree that the player can advance through their character gains of experience levels and completing missions. Another key is exploring planets. So while you explore planets, characters have the option to bring 2 of their crew members with them, who generally act autonomously but can be given specific orders. In missions, the player can explore the area, find information, discover loot, all the stuff that we're used to. The really interesting thing with the companion piece is that they level up as you bring them with them, as you bring them with you too. So like your characters get better the more time you put into them, which is something that like isn't unique to Mass Effect, but it is something that I really like because it kind of forced favorites on me, because I went on missions with them a lot and I also talked with them a lot. Beyond that, and probably one of my favorite pieces of the game is the Paragon and Renegade system.
Before we get into that, can
What?
we talk about how janky the actual combat was in these
The
games?
first game.
It is
first
terrible.
game's combat was janky. I will give you that. Yeah. So the next piece of mechanics is the Paragon and Renegade system. And this is something where whenever I talk with somebody about Mass Effect, and when we did a panel at PAX South before the world ended, we got to kind of rank characters. And in that conversation, you got to hear a lot about like who left who to die in places, who chose to shoot certain characters. And a lot of that, like the reason the Paragon and Renegade system is important is because the choices you make throughout the entirety of the game impact not just your story, but every story around you. So through stored encounters and missions, the player meets a number of NPCs and engages in dialogue trees with them to learn information and progress the story in a dialogue wheel. Which, fun fact, BioWare made the dialogue wheel. That's their thing, and then everybody else used it.
They didn't make they made it 10 times better than the Oblivion dialogue wheel, is what you're saying.
According to it, they own the term dialogue wheel, and they made the dialogue wheel. That is what sources say. Most of these choices are simple questions and responses, but in some dialogues they offer additional choices that either influence how the game plays out from there, or as a result of those, or are a result of the previous choices. In the first 3 games, these choices influence your morality, putting them on the path towards Paragon or Renegade, indicated by the color and positioning on the dialogue wheel. With the second and third game, it became possible to select those choices during the NPC dialogue, resulting in an interruption of the action that could have a larger ramification. The player's choices of Paragon and Renegade could change how some parts of the story progressed and could limit choices of allies they could gain later on in the game or the ability to access powerful gear. Also, fun fact, all y'all know that I just press A. I have been made fun of for it on many episodes by both Adrian and Matt. Mass Effect, I never press A. I never just try to get on to the next thing, because that's a bad idea. That's how you make a whole bunch of enemies. That's how you don't listen to what the person you were romancing was saying, and you've missed your one shot to give them the correct answer to romance them because you didn't listen to their first piece. Additionally, like, the way that, like, this really works is that is okay. So Matt put a picture of the Oblivion.
No, it's not. It's not an actual.
That's not the same thing.
No,
sir.
it is not. But I just funny because it is a wheel of a game, a personality game, where each one you select depends on what ends up happening. It's almost, very dumb.
It's almost as if wheels are standard UI integrations.
Oh, absolutely.
Like weapon wheels.
What?
Again, BioWare made the dialogue wheel. Thank you for proving yourself wrong.
You are justified there.
The biggest piece about all of this and what I just said is that accountability isn't just shaping your playthrough, but it's shaping the world that you're going to have from that point forward. And this is really, really important because I don't understand what the game looks like if you let Ashley live. Because I killed her space race's ass every time that I ever played through this series, and I will do it again in Legendary. Never gonna play through the game with her. She also has like the personality of a wet mop. But that means that my game is just completely different because she's not around to have any influence. She's not around to bring her storylines with her. And my experience has completely changed. And the same thing happens with people who are absolutely horrible and chose to kill Rex. You're horrible. If hell exists, you're going to be there. That is what I am sticking by.
Ashley shot him. What do you want me to do? All right. Ashley shot him. I was trying to talk him down. Mm-hmm. He was getting buck. I was like, "Hey, man! Like, hey, whoa!" I put my hands up, and then
you
Ashley
saved
shoots
that
him,
precious
and
baby. I receive no racist.
Look, first of all, I don't receive any Paragon or Renegade things when Ashley shot him. So the whole like, "Oh, that's a Renegade choice." I was like, "No!" Like, I was like, "Hey, let's talk this out." And then Ashley shoots him. How's that my fault? How's that my fault, game?
She's a space racist.
I told myself I was going to go back and like do over choices.
So I had to live with it.
I had to live with it.
So I feel like when you replay through for Legendary, you'll love it because Rex is the biggest bro like ever, and he's just a sweet baby. Like, I love him.
He also pulled a gun on me, and I was just like, "Hey, man, you don't talk about it unless you want to be about it, all
right?" Anyway, I still hold. There's a special place for you.
Look, I'm gonna save him this time. I've only played through the game once, and it kind of just happened. I really did not expect Ashley to shoot him in the back because the dialogue option is like, "Whoa, hey, wait, let's talk about this," and then he dies. Like, I don't have any control over. Yeah, I guess I could kill Ashley sooner, but how do I supposed to know? He was gonna shoot her, later in the game. That's the beauty of the system, right?
What's funny is we're talking about like different ways people play and the different like story outcomes and stuff. I played through Mass Effect 1 probably 10 to 15 times at this point when I discovered Ash could even shoot Rex. because I always had
I-
max intimidation or max charm, so it had never even occurred to me because I mentioned earlier about mechanics. I don't care about the combat that much. Every playthrough when I start Mass Effect 1, I immediately decide, do I want charm or do I intimidate? And I put my points into that before I ever put it into skills. So I always focus on maxing those. So it was seriously like 10,
Yeah.
15 playthroughs before I was like, oh, wow, this changes the game not choosing.
Yeah, it
intimidate
also
and charm.
solidifies that Ashley is a space racist thing, guys.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh
it's
no,
so
I
bad.
want. After she did that, I did want to kill her, but like, obviously, you're playing the game. You can't just arbitrarily.
Was that
shoot
lizard
people.
threatening you?
Yeah, and then you also have people who like who run the suicide mission in the game and lose like parts of their crew that they don't get back for the next 2 games.
I lost Morden on my very first suicide run. Yeah, I lost Morden. That was the only one. That was the single solitary death.
That hurts.
I did not carry that character over into Mass Effect 3.
That's so. And see, and I don't know what. Anyway, all this is to say, every choice that you make dictates where you're going in the future. And now, one of the things, and we talked about it in our Let's Talk panel, is the fact that the Renegade and Paragon system. Paragon is pretty straightforward. You understand what's going to be a good decision and what's not. Renegade goes from, do you want to punch this reporter in the face for being a dick, to, do you want to wipe out this entire population of people? Make your choice. And it's like, well, what if I just want to be a little bad? Maybe I don't want to genocide people. And that's one of the things, and this jump specifically happens into 3, and I think a lot of it is just because of how dire all the circumstances are in 3, that when it comes to doing that, like, polarizing choice system, you kind of, it gets bigger. Which is also, Josh, I don't know how the hell you ran through Renegade all the time, because that just hurts. Like, I can't make those choices.
I was not necessarily the nicest, best person when I used to play the Mass Effect games, so I've come a long way, understanding my actions and my own thoughts. So that was different. That was a different Josh, because like for instance, I said I'm like right now for my Legendary Edition, I'm doing a primarily Renegade playthrough. But a lot of it is, yeah, you're a dick, so I'm going to be a dick to you. But then it's like, do you want to boil the Rachni Queen in acid and watch them melt? I don't like this character is a little bit xenophobic, but even that's beyond the pale. We're going to release them because that just seems a little much.
And are there any choices that you all have made that have really kind of like stuck with you, that like whether it was like going back and changing, or one that you stuck by, but like maybe were, I guess, like, I don't want to say shocked, but like how they played out, like when it comes to these?
I know I have a couple of these. The one that's sticking out though in my head right now is the Bring Down the Sky DLC for Mass Effect 1, which was a choice. You get a choice at the very end of that DLC. Do you go after the Batarian guy, Balak, I think his name is? Do you go after him and actually fight him, but he blows up a room of hostages, or do you save the hostages? And it's a very simple choice. Revenge against someone who really actually had no impact on you, or save hostages. And the first time I did it, I was on a pure Renegade playthrough, so it's like, of course I'm going to do that. And it actually bothered me. Wow, I just watched the room explode and kill people. So I was like, and just going to rewind and do that over again, kind of thing. And I've done both ways now, but it bothered me and stuck with me. But actually, the choice that sticks out the most to me is we're good on spoilers, right? Or
The game's been out forever.
I just want to make sure. So
I'll
on
also
Rannoch,
put it in everything so that people know coming in that it's a spoiler piece.
fair enough. On Rannoch, Mass Effect 3, depending on options and dialogue choices you've made throughout the entire game, determines one, the fate of the Geth and the Quarians. But if you make a not great choice there, in my opinion, Tali jumps off a cliff. And
I didn't know that.
that's what.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of really hard to like have spoilers on this game, right? Because everyone's playthrough can be just like vastly different.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Sorry.
No, I mean that's crazy.
That's why I've said so. But I'm saying like there are choices in Mass Effect 3 that are determined by every choice you've made up to that point, and can literally end with like situations that you can't escape. There's nothing you can do, and you lose beloved characters. And it's
Yeah.
absolutely so. Those are the things that stick around to me the most. The ones that, oh, I can't just rewind my save file. This is literally 2 whole games of choices, kind of thing.
Yeah. What about you, Adrian?
I don't know. I've only played it through it once, so I think like my perspective on this is like a little bit different because I don't know how else the game could have played out. But so I'm just gonna stick with I didn't shoot Rex. Ashley shot Rex, so I'm not a terrible person. It's what I'm gonna go with because I really don't know.
All
how
I
else the
learned
game
is
would play out.
apparently you allowed Ashley to live long enough to shoot Rex.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man.
Bold.
I just wanted to romance everything in that game. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I really don't even know how it got to that point. Like, I really don't even remember Ashley. I never took her off the thing, so I never like really interacted with her all that much. If I didn't have to, I just kind of just left
See,
her.
and you would have had those awesome moments where she calls aliens animals, and
Yeah, I don't think I got to any of those dialogue points, because everyone keeps telling me that she's a racist, but I was like, I don't really remember really even talking to her all that much. It was when she shot
girl's
Rex, I was like,
bad.
oh wait, I don't
She's
really like this.
bad.
I really don't like this person, so I'm
So
probably gonna
I
kill
played
her.
enough of the game to where I learned that and knew that. Like in the first part.
Fun fact, if you are playing through it for the first time, please do all the dialogue choices. So my biggest choice isn't necessarily that I felt bad about it, but I made the decision not to save the council. And part of me has always thought, well, I've in the majority of my playthroughs I choose not to save the council. And that's just because they're not the good guys. Like, they're supposed to be the good guys, but I don't genuinely buy that the council are the good guys. But it always eats at me, and I think, like, a lot of it is just that, like, how that pushes everything. So I think that, like, saving to destroy the council is probably, like, my hardest decision. And then I think, like, the closest, or the one after that is rewriting the Geth. My first playthrough, I did not rewrite the Geth. I destroyed the heretic Geth. Did not do that again. It made me feel really bad.
Yeah, a lot of the choices with the Geth stuff. I find.
The Geth.
I honestly, I can't wait to get back to Mass Effect 3 to make those choices again for Mass Effect 2 and 3, because I'm like, I'm curious what the different weight is going to be, because I remember those being my harder choices my last few times through.
Yeah, no, that's completely right. So going on from that and kind of tailing off of like Ashley and Caden, the relationship system in Mass Effect is another one of its but why those, and it's one of the largest mechanics of the game that really gets people invested in this, and kind of like we talked about, like why combat didn't matter as much. So among notable side missions in the series include various romancing options with the main character's crewmates. These included both straight and same-sex relationships, since the player character's gender was selectable, as well as interspecies options. Players could work to improve their relationship with these characters through dialogue options, providing them gifts, or completing various side missions specific to each character. Successfully romancing a character would typically lead to scenes leading up to a sexual encounter. While same now, and I kind of want to go into just talking about like this piece of like the relationships and the side missions that play into it before I jump into the next part, because I realized talking Mass Effect with other people that I never understood their playthroughs, because I always did all of the loyalty missions. One, because I was an achievement hunter, and two, because like I wanted to make a very informed decision on everything. Granted, once I fell in love with Garrus, and I really didn't care about anybody else. So yeah. Just wanted to talk a
So
little
I
bit
guess
about that.
for me, talking about this, I mean, I like the relationship system, and I remember playing in Dragon Age. They kind of, I don't know if they have quite the same, but pretty much the same almost.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, very similar. And while I do intrigue, there are two things that bug me, especially when doing this. Of one, I've learned I hate having to take idiot AI on missions. And so like having to take AI on missions is such annoying, and then having to deal with gearing them up. Oh my gosh, such a pain. Which also is kind of like one of the reasons why I just kind of going away, because I'm like, man, this is a lot of damn work and it's annoying. And then obviously, as much as I do like the dialogue and stuff, it tends to be while some people like thrive in it, it ends up being like, why don't I just play a damn dating sim with how much dialogue and stuff I'm doing? Because I'm not doing anything other than just pressing A over and over, reading dialogue.
I would play a Mass Effect dating sim. I'm just putting
I
that
would
out
too.
there.
No, I mean, all I've learned is all people did play, and I was like, no wonder I didn't get this, because I was like, I didn't want to play a dating sim. I like the relationship thing, and I didn't mind putting some work, but damn, I spent like 3 hours playing the game just to like talk to people.
Yes, that's the point. Every mission you come through, every mission you come back from, you run around the ship and you see if anybody else has any new like dialogue options for you to talk
I mean, that's all you did in
through.
Dragon Age. You ran around the campfire. It was fine.
See, but that's the funny thing is, I love companion dialogue. I love those kind of things. But that's actually my big complaint about Mass Effect 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition. More so with Inquisition, was the fact of like in Inquisition specifically thinking, wow, it's been 4 hours since I did a mission. I'm still just talking to people.
Yeah.
I like talking to people, but this is much even by my standards. You know, so yeah, I get it. Also, I want a Mass Effect dating.
No, I mean that's fine, but
give me a Mass Effect Atome game, please.
But Matt, on your comment on the idiot AI thing, the funny thing is, so Garrus, beloved by a majority of Mass Effect fans, right? I really liked Garrus because of, you know, he was a cool design and stuff like that in the first Mass Effect. But the funniest thing about that for me is I refused really to use him past my first playthrough because something about that specific AI was always so broken. I wish I was on Twitter back in the days when I played Mass Effect 1 originally, because I had, it's somewhere on my computer somewhere if I made it over, I have hundreds of screenshots of Garrus getting stuck in ceilings. I did 5 playthroughs of the game with Garrus.
It's because he was a big boy.
Ceiling.
He's large and in charge, and the doorways are not built for him.
No, he literally was just straight up in the day of ceiling, lawn darted, only his feet just dangling out. Every single mission started that way, and I'm like, I guess it's just going to be me and Rex on this mission kind of thing. And then even with the Legendary Edition, I swear, like, it was an intentional thing, because I have a video that I'm going to put up on Twitter at some point soon, which is just Garrus just unloads a full clip into the floor randomly in a mission. And there's no enemies. He just does it.
There was a bug down there, man.
It was a Arachni related mission, so there probably was a bug in the floorboards. But...
Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, the relationship system didn't really matter to me too much. I think just because of Knights of the Old Republic 2, like the relationship system was like integral to like helping them become Jedi or Sith or whatever the case is. So I was pretty used to like having to go talk to crewmates, and I kind of like it. You know, you hear backstory, world building, like that's all a thing, especially for the ones I didn't really take out really, because I'm the person who sticks with like the same characters like the whole thing because I liked them first, kind of like how I play my Pokemon games. Like my first rider dies when my first rider dies, you know. But yeah, I mean,
that is definitely how you play Pokemon. That's probably why I suck at Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't care if I have a Sparrow still. Like it's fine.
I'm gonna level that Sparrow up, and he'll be better.
He's working really, really hard. Okay. So I like the relationship system, and I think those interactions are interesting. I don't like that. Well, I mean, it's kind of real life, I guess. But, you know, if you mess up one relationship, then I might mess up another one. Then I never get to see like that relationship pan out, which kind of sucks. But I also like wanted to romance Liara like every time I played, so it's fine. It's fine. I can be monogamous. I'm good.
Yeah, I also ended up pretty much just taking Garrus and Rex out whenever I could. They were my bros. And then so I would usually sub I would end up subbing out Garrus with Liara every now and again. Mainly just because Rex is a beastie tank that I just would stay next to.
And only because I'm probably going to have to hear from people in general of, no, I did not use my damn companion in Fallout 3 because it was the dumbest AI, even worse than this. And that dog meat just went out to die every day.
I am so hurt hearing you say this.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I tried to save dog. I refused to take dog meat out because he would just go die every time I did, and I had to restart over.
No,
He's
I
such
remember
a good
that.
boy. He works so hard.
He does,
So
but
I
he's
will
so
say this,
dumb.
having watched Matt play it, I respect Matt's decision because he cared enough about dog meat to leave him at home.
I left him at home. I used to build him a giant dog house,
did.
everything,
It was
put him
so
food
cute.
bowl. But you just couldn't come with me, boy, because you were just so dumb.
Tried his best.
So one of the other really great things about Mass Effect and its relationship system is that while the same-sex relationships in the series aren't perfect, they do push forward the standard of what you can expect from games coming afterwards. But one of the most important things that the series did for younger players was to help them kind of understand themselves by playing through the relationships, because Mass Effect wasn't about, oh, this person's hot. Mass Effect is actually about building meaningful relationship with characters, romancing them, and ultimately actually taking them to like that final sex stage most of the time.
No, it's because the blue alien was hot.
It was always because whoever was hottest. You just happen to do more more
Oh
dialogue
my
for the
God.
hot.
Come on, Kate. It's all whoever was hottest.
It's
Come on.
not. No, but
You did all the dialogue for the hot one. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like...
No, you're completely right. It's not all about that. But
sometimes if it was Liara, it was. It's fine. But
just
no,
looking at us in disgust right now.
I am looking at you in disgust. But no, but this is actually really important. And it's something that I've actually seen quite a few people either write threads about or actually publish articles about, and it was highlighted in the Mass Effect fan video, is that Mass Effect was actually a really big tool for people to like understand their sexualities, because it wasn't about just looking at a character. It was about forming a meaningful relationship and exploring that side of yourself that you may not have been able to, especially in more restrictive households, more restrictive communities, and that kind of stuff. And so as much as like, and we'll talk about it when we get into the controversies, there are missteps with Mass Effect when it comes to same-sex relationships. Not everybody can romance everybody, and some of those choices were guided by Fox News. That said, this game is actually really pivotal for a lot of people kind of finding out who they are, especially in that seventh generation of gaming. Additionally, while we all like to talk about alien sex, it's important to note that the side missions and dialogues also created very strong platonic relationships as well. Because the game pushes you to do more than just press A. Hi, it me, I press A. And you have to really form stuff. And I will say, I have never felt emotionally devastated about a character's death like I have with Mass Effect 3. And a lot of that is because Morden's my boy. He's there for you. When I'm trying to romance Garrus, he's giving me tips. He's telling me that I gotta be careful because I could die. Like, that's a true friend. And you get to see him grow from being a pretty space racist scientist to being a not space racist scientist, and actually really caring for Rex and learning that it's his job to undo what his people did. And it's an amazing story. And I can't name another series that gets me like that. Adrian, why are you laughing?
because he was a space racist too.
He was, but he changed.
For most of the game.
He changed.
And I
Not
just
most
don't-
of the game. One game.
It stuck with me. It stuck with me. Like this guy's a
Sir,
threat.
you let Ashley act on it. I told Morden that he
Hey,
was
look.
wrong, and I made him I made Morden a better person because I made him confront his and his people's ill deeds. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I'm part of the human thing, so it's kind of hard for me to be like, "Hey, man, go jump off a cliff." Nah, you're right. That does sucks, and he has a whole bunch of arc and a whole bunch of growth. I just think it's funny because he starts out as space racist. How am I supposed to know? Maybe Ashley could have turned a corner. She
So
could have turned a
actually,
corner.
she doesn't, from what I've heard.
That's what I'm reading. That's what I'm reading right now because I googled it because I want to feel better about letting her
No.
live so long. But no, she turns out to be bad the entire way. So
Yep.
if you don't like space racists, kill Ashley.
Yep.
Let the alien space racist be okay.
Exactly. Josh.
Oh, I got nothing there. I don't really no. I mean, just on the topic like the platonic relationship aspect and stuff, and the emotional impact and things. I've never romanced Garrus because I've never had a femshep character. Through, I want to say, I think I started a femshep character in Mass Effect 2, but I think I ended up romancing Thane if I remember right. So I've never done Garrus's romance. So all my playthroughs, Garrus is the best friend.
Thane is also a
character,
good choice.
Thane's a good choice, but Garrus is the BFF. He's the ride or die kind of person. So I've always just had this strong, like, friendly attraction to the character because of that. And I mean, Rex as well. There's a lot of characters in the game that you form these strong platonic relationships with. So yeah, it's not all banging. Some of it is, but
I think that that's also.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
No, because it is cool. Because I do. It is a nice little thing of doing this whole relationship stuff. Like I said, it's one of the intriguing part of like for me at least when I play Dragon Age. It's also it's funny because we advance so much down the line to where obviously you see this in Skyrim. Obviously we get this in Fable. You get it some in the later Fallout's, and then it also leads to the weird downplay of like that's one of my biggest complaints about Outer Worlds. Like we had all this stuff in Outer Worlds just says you're all friends, despite you spent 20 hours just talking to people. And I'm like, I don't like this at all.
You go hook poverty up with somebody else instead of actually dating poverty.
You do, and then
okay, but the Pavarti mission is a really good mission. I really like. I like her romance.
So I don't mind it, except for the fact that like then you get nobody.
Yeah, there's definitely that aspect of the game.
But I guess it's just funny because we talk about this and how it goes through and how we do end up seeing it a lot more in RPGs along the line. And then like the most latest one everybody likes, it's like we're all just BFFs. I was like, time out, what? We spent so much damn dialogue for that.
Yeah, well, I will say, and I think that that's also one of my favorite things, and I think it's why I like why Garrus is my main guy. It's because like with Garrus, and obviously it could be different with other characters, but like some characters you can only romance like for certain games, and I don't know, like Garrus for me, there was like Garrus for me felt like a real relationship in that like I started liking Garrus and wanting to romance him because there was a friendship and a respect initially. And then it was like he's like one of the only characters, not the only characters, but like there's a respect in which like you don't see from the other characters to your character. He calls you on stuff repeatedly if you make like bad choices or like everything like that. He holds you accountable, and like I don't know, it's just very very good. And I think like it's the fact that Garrus is a good romance for me is because they balance off the platonic side too. Because I definitely could see Josh where you just keep that platonic side and don't choose to like risk it in a romance or not. Yeah. And like I think that that's something that's really awesome.
I was just saying on that same subject, you know, that whole building a slow romance kind of thing from friendship thing. That's how I felt about Tali, because I hated Tali throughout most of my Mass Effect 1 playthroughs. I refused to take her or anything. I only finally took her out on missions because I don't know, she came across as like the annoying kid sister character almost to me, and I was like, whatever, you immune system depleted person. Like I just it didn't like. I was a dick, and I just was like not interested in the character at all. And then finally I took her out because I was trying to 100% achievements for the game, which requires for Mass Effect 1 was like 40 side quests you had to do with the character. So I created my team Shotguns, which was, you know, Rex, her, and whatever my character with a shotgun. I was like, oh, she's actually more interesting than I thought she was. Okay, whatever. Came back to Mass Effect 2, and it was like almost like absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. Suddenly Tali comes in Mass Effect 2, and I'm like, oh, there's something more about you now. I don't know what it is. Did you change your hair? Did you do like, you know, it's like it's the spacesuit. There's nothing about it, but like something about the character just built on more and became my favorite romance I've done in the series. And it was the first one I did for Mass Effect 2 and for 3. So, I don't know. That whole idea of like the characters they growing on you and starting with the friendship thing makes sense to me.
And Rex is just best bro. Like
yeah, well yeah.
So going from the relationships, it actually goes perfectly into the controversies, because the first one or the first few are about them. So the sex scene controversy. In 2007, Fox News lost their shit because of sex. Shocker to no one. Cutscene from the first Mass Effect, which contains depictions of partial nudity and sexual activity, was accused by the neoconservative media outlet of being obscene. Now, wait, go ahead.
Best thing about this is I remember watching that, and then I remember watching the dumb author lady get on there and try to defend it and had no idea what she was talking about, and then everybody ruined all of her books. And I stayed up for an entire day where everybody wrote reviews of going, I never read your book, but it's shit. Because she explicitly said, I've never played it, but obviously this is terrible.
Yeah, like most of Fox News. And the reason that this controversy is actually really important is because where you go into the actual censorship of the game. The actual censorship is that the controversy with Fox News actually pushed BioWare management into the development of Mass Effect 2 to remove already planned same-sex romantic content from the companion characters like Jacob and Jack. And this is actually really visible. And it was, I think it was like my 4th playthrough. I wanted to romance Jack, and I didn't know that I couldn't because I really love Jack as a character. Jack's dialogue shows you that that was supposed to be a romance choice. Like, they did not clean that up at all. Like, it's really bad. And the fact that they were essentially pushed by the Fox response to just limit the same-sex options is really shitty. Like, and this is
incredibly so.
And this is one of those things where, like, BioWare pushed things by building in same-sex relationships, and it helped a lot of people. It could have been a lot better if they hadn't listened to Fox News. Yeah.
As you learn, as everybody in America, they always take a line in the stand until it becomes to certain things.
Yeah. And additionally controversy over the cutscene, especially one version which depicts a potential intimate scene between Liara and female Commander Shepard, attracted at least one instance of government scrutiny in which the game was banned in Singapore. So yeah, that happened. Now, the reason I say that these are actual censorship, because this is when an outside party and one involving a government actually made the game change what it was doing. Not actual censorship is Miranda's butt. So the reason that this was a controversy was Mass Effect fans for like the decade that's been happening. Miranda's a really good character, but a lot of people didn't learn that she was a good character because they just got annoyed by all the butt shots and never took her out on anything. I was one of those people initially. And I was like, look, I get it. Miranda's hot. Totally would be down for romancing her. But also, this is just annoying. And I want a character with substance. Goodbye, Miranda. Sit on the ship. And so for a long time, especially fans of Miranda, like, it's been a problem. Because, like, you don't see that type of camera angles done to any other character. Even Liara. And Liara is, for the most part, like the number one hottie of the entire group. It's only Miranda. And so now when the Legendary Edition came out, I believe it was the head writer was like, well, I'm just going to take it out because it really adds nothing to the game and I'm a different person now and this is my game. I'm just going to take it out. And then the usual suspects said that it was censorship. And I was like, that's not what censorship means. Because the person who invented the game decided to just take it out because he didn't like it anymore.
If I remember it, it was specifically Miranda's writer who did that. Who was like the one who insisted on it, and they made that decision, I believe. But as someone who was just like a very stereotypical, like, you know, horny 20-year-old playing the game, I'm like doing the gratuitous ass shots thing with Miranda, you know, back then were ridiculous back then because she's, I'm this clone and I'm talking about all the, you know, like clone thing and all these like, things about myself.
Like deep company intrigue with Cerberus and crap.
And I'm like, and the camera shot is I can see her ass like straight up, and I'm like, this is literally bad filming kind of thing. And the most comical thing about this, with this whole, you know, censorship thing, claiming that Miranda's ass being removed from these scenes is some censorship thing. Play Mass Effect 1 and look at Matriarch Benezia and tell me anything about the female form was censored.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, she's just all boobs.
Yes.
Nothing was censored. It's just one specific thing literally did not make sense to storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It made no sense.
Because there's still a lot of, like, well, like, that legendary model was kind to everybody. Everybody in that
everybody, yeah.
in that
everyone
in
except
that
for Udina.
remix.
Udina did not get a good break with the legendary, but
And so
I do have a question,
yeah.
by the way. So obviously, I don't personally care about Miranda's butt or not butt because I didn't play this, whatever else. But I do have a question because the differentiation of obviously a writer saying, I don't like this, so we took it out, fine. But at what point between actual, I guess, BioWare taking out all the stuff they did take?
Well, because
Because in the day, they still made the same
No.
decision both ways.
but so the difference is really that it's the writer's autonomy to do it. Because from the actual censorship pieces, and especially the pieces with like Jack and Jacob and like the same-sex relationships, is nobody on the dev team wanted to do that. They were pressured by BioWare to take it out. And at least I think like when the news first broke on that, some of the devs and some of the writers were like, no, we left in Jack's dialogue. Like they did that on purpose because of what it was supposed to be. And so like the difference is you have somebody who is actually developing and writing the game. And the difference is if they had made Miranda a super campy character where she was just a sex pot, those butt shots I'm totally fine with. But she wasn't. She was supposed to be this heavy, deep Cerberus spy clone who like has like probably the most convoluted story of everybody with like government oversight and intrigue and genetic manipulation, and then it was butt. And that's what the writers, when they removed it, said is because it didn't go for the story versus when BioWare pushed to have the same-sex relationships removed, it wasn't the choices of the writers, essentially. And that's where you have the difference. One is a creative decision. One is something that's forced on you because of outside parties. And that's the difference between you.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how that breaks down. Also, part of me wishes they had made Miranda campy, because I also didn't like her for a while, but I brought her on missions because she was kind of mean most of the time. I was like, well, if I need a mean person, I'll bring Miranda at like playthrough number 3. But the first playthrough was just like, you sit on the ship and you feel bad because you're annoying.
You were just jealous of her butt, that's all I got out of that.
She had a nice butt, but no. Garrus's butt is better. Anyway, the last controversy is really just the Mass Effect 3 ending, because we're already going a little bit long, but the big thing is that Mass Effect 3, the Mass Effect 3 ending, as much as it's a controversy, but why though, it is really just a but why though in and of itself, because I kind of blame everything that has happened about angry fans petitioning a company to change something. I blame on BioWare caving in for Mass Effect 3. So although Mass Effect 3 garnered predominantly positive critical acclaim, like its previous ones, controversy ended up surrounding the release. The most notable incident involved the public's reaction and refusal to accept the game's ending. Several players organized themselves over the internet to demand a better ending to the game, and one player filed a complaint to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission alleging that BioWare did not deliver the promise of the game. Public outcry drew conflicting responses from organizations like the Better Business Bureau and the UK-based Advertising Standards Authority as to whether BioWare had engaged in false advertising and misled consumers under the law. That's how crazy these people went. BioWare later released an extended cut patch, which would extend upon, but not replace, the endings for Mass Effect 3.
Which also leads to another point of why this will still always be the most overrated, because as beloved as it is, it opened Pandora's box that led to a bunch of bad shit.
Doesn't make it overrated, but yes, it opened Pandora's box. Like, this is probably the worst thing to ever happen, but also, like, fans legit went to the Better Business Bureau to, like, report them.
My short response to that will always be eat shit to all the people who said the response. But at the same time, my career exists because of the fan complaints, as ridiculous as it is, because I started a podcast, Constant Calibrating, which was just a one episode with my best friend at the time. We just wanted to record ourselves talking about Mass Effect 3. The ending controversy started right after we pretty much released the first episode. We're like, let's just do a second episode to talk about why we actually like the ending. And then that got traction, and then everything else led from that.
See, then you open the other box of just every person making a podcast.
That is, yes. You are correct.
See,
that definitely...
all the Pandora's boxes this thing opened?
This had Pandora's boxes inside its Pandora's boxes. But
I want to know why this blew me away, though. Like, I was so... a person even not playing the game, I was just confused because all I ever heard was artistic vision. And so I was like, why do we hate this? And then I was another one of those of like, please don't tell me to change your game. And then the fact that they caved, I was like, oh, I lost any type of respect I ever had for you, BioWare.
I played this game on launch. I finished playing it. I wasn't online back then. I am a staunch defender of the original Mass Effect 3 ending. We don't need anything else. Some heroes have sad stories. Some heroes can do everything right and things can still go wrong. And the entire game was the ending for everybody. For every single character, for your character. And it wasn't... Mass Effect is a true piece in that the ending was the friends you made along the way. That's actually what Mass Effect 3 was about. And Adrian, I will say, I want you to play through and I want you to experience that ending and I want to know what you think. Because like I think what happened is a lot of what happens when people read fan fiction, and not the same people reading fan fiction with Mass Effect, although they probably were, is that you set up an expectation and when something doesn't meet it, you're automatically angry. And I think we see this happen with so many trilogies. And I think as a Star Wars fan, that's probably the best analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been lucky enough to like avoid, I don't even know what like the endings are or like what the ending is in general. So I don't know what people are upset about. So I'm going in still pretty blind, which I'm excited for. But also, you know, good things can come out of this. I got my alternate ending to How I Met Your Mother because of this. I'm gonna attribute, because if I didn't get an alternate ending for How I Met Your Mother, I'd burn down the whole city too. So it's okay.
So you're in support of the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Not quite that.
Hold on, and better thing, he's saying that because he's not in support of Game of Thrones.
Don't send them death threats, but give me a better ending.
And I think the other thing that this really spirals into, they were also accused of unethical business practices over its handling the release of Mass Effect 3's From the Ashes DLC pack, as well as allegations of conflict of interest involving video game media personality Jessica Chobot's appearance as an NPC in Mass Effect 3, although personally I think those are reaches. The other thing that this sets up, and probably the most direct, is because they caved for this first one, and this does not justify any of the hate that the dev team for Mass Effect Andromeda got. They did not deserve that crap.
No. I do wonder, before we get into the Andromeda stuff, how much does EA buying them for the third game?
Oh no, that's probably a big piece. That's
because
probably
EA, I believe, publishes the third one because they just purchased BioWare, if I remember correctly.
No, they published the second and third one.
So they do publish the second one? Okay.
Yeah, the announcement that, I don't remember the exact date, but the announcement that EA had bought BioWare was almost like linked almost perfectly in with Mass Effect 1's release, because it was weird seeing the Microsoft logo for Mass Effect 1, knowing that everything else was going to be EA kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so that opens the door to giant harassment, death threat campaigns, and so much more and worse for the entire dev team Andromeda when it launched with a few bugs.
Yeah.
Also, Andromeda isn't bad. It's just not the original trilogy.
Which doesn't matter in the minds of anything.
Well, we're getting a fourth.
That's how you
one.
get Anthem 1.1, 1.2,
No, we
1.3.
got Anthem because they weren't doing more of this stuff. They should have just stayed in the Mass Effect universe.
Yeah, Anthem happened because they canceled Andromeda's DLC.
Exactly.
Yeah, because essentially nobody wanted more Andromeda.
I did.
You were one of the few people.
I have an Andromeda shrine right here.
Sad part is, like I said, the only thing I know about Andromeda playing is I asked Kate, why didn't you play it? And she was like, I don't like it. It was boring.
It was boring. It wasn't.
And that's
bad.
what I'm saying. And so when it comes to like,
it wasn't bad. It was boring.
But it wasn't what you wanted. It wasn't.
No, it was boring.
Almost as if you built up a thing of what the game was supposed to be, and then when it wasn't, you didn't like it?
Oh no, it was actually just the way that they ran the mechanics from it. So like essentially, it wasn't a Mass Effect game to me. Like the entire planetary exploration was completely different. All of the combat felt really different for me, and then I didn't like the way that the character stuff was progressing because it was really focused going onto these stupid planets, and it wasn't as focused on the character driving as much as I wanted. And I stayed because I wanted to romance Jaal, and then after I hit that point, I was like, okay, I'm out. I got what I wanted.
So, Mass Effect Andromeda, I'll go very quick on this. The reason why there's issues with Mass Effect Andromeda in large part is because they did the same thing that Dragon Age Inquisition did. They're pretty much practically the same game. One is fantasy, one is space. A lot of the way too open spaces, way too much to do, all these things are there. But then they also gave you the companion relationships akin to Mass Effect 1, but not 2 and 2, 3. 2
Yeah.
and 3 were these more in-depth relationships, while 1 was a lot more just like question and answer.
Yep.
So you had reduced relationships, way too much, honestly, unnecessary stuff to
Whole
do.
planet. I'm not exaggerating. It was a whole planet.
Oh no, it's anytime people complain, wow, it takes so long to go, to drive around the uncharted planets in Mass Effect 1, I'm like, yeah, go on to the ice planet, which I love the ice planet in Mass Effect Andromeda. Go into that planet. Oh my god. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It was literally every planet in Andromeda is the hinterlands from Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
Is thing. And I say, and then the combat was very different, and then the crafting mechanics for the weapons were
The weapons.
you could literally I literally made a weapon that I didn't realize did no damage. I actually made a weapon that was incapable of doing damage, and why is that even an option to do? And I had to roll back my game an hour to do things. I was like, wow, I'm doing like this raid level boss thing because it literally, I fought one specific boss thing for 2.5 hours, not exaggerating. 2.5 hours for a single fight. I'm like, wow, this is just taking forever. I remade the weapon, did the fight again, and it took me 11 minutes. And I was like, oh, cool, because I had a broken gun. The game has problems, and yet I'm still a person who will be like, yeah, still like it.
No, it is wild, because that is something that I've always questioned too, because there's been so many other games, which we've talked about on here, like, they just allow you to freedom, I guess, per se, of like freedom to make dumb shit that doesn't help the game and just useless.
So I do think
like a gun that does no
overscoped.
To Adrian's point, I think there is a little bit in that it wasn't Mass Effect, but I think that that's fair for something that was taking place in Mass Effect with a Mass Effect name 600 years in the future from Mass Effect. And then just like didn't get the foundation right. It's kind of like when you go into something and it says that it's a thing, but like you don't have that foundation.
And I guess that's where I cut my whole point of some point of basically you have the 3 and you're just kind of, that's it. You can't go any, and at this point,
we have a sequel coming to the original Mass Effect trilogy. It's Untitled Mass Effect game. Don't know anything else about it.
It's sequel to both.
Yes. Oh yeah,
it's been
both.
confirmed.
Okay, sequel to
Even
both.
worse.
It's all but been confirmed that it's gonna be a sequel to both the trilogy and Andromeda.
And then this goes into where it's a successful franchise or a successful trilogy, just by how much stuff it has. So it has 1, 2, 3 Andromeda, the untitled 4th one. You end up with 2 compilations, the Mass Effect trilogy, and then what just released, which is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Then you have Mass Effect
and
Galaxy.
you're complaining about Skyrim.
Look, these are generations apart. And then you also have Mass Effect Galaxy, Mass Effect, which is in iOS, which is a mobile. We have 4 mobile games: Mass Effect Galaxy, Mass Effect Infiltrator, Mass Effect Datapad, and then Mass Effect Andromeda Apex HQ. And those are all of like the spin-off games and stuff like that. There was a Mass Effect Ride in 2016, Mass Effect New Earth. It is a 4D holographic experience introduced into California's Great America Amusement Park in 2016. Don't know if it's still there. There are 2 trilogies of books. So Del Rey published Mass Effect Revelation, Mass Effect Ascension, and Mass Effect Retribution, all by Drew Karpyshyn. I have 2 of those. They were actually really good.
I've read all 3. What's funny about that is you have those 3, but there's a 4th book not written by Drew that has been disavowed.
Really?
By BioWare. Oh, because it's so it has the one of the characters who goes through from Ascension forward, and she's written just as like a generic sex like crazed kind of character and stuff like that, and it completely and utterly changes. Like the person who wrote it admitted that they'd never read or heard anything about Mass Effect.
Oh dear, no.
And BioWare actually made a comment about the book stating that they were going to have someone completely rewrite it from the ground up and release the book. It never happened.
Wow.
I don't remember what it was called. I never read it. So.
Then you have the trilogy of books published by Titan, which are tie-ins for Mass Effect Andromeda, Mass Effect Nexus Rising by Jason Hume and Casey Alexander, Mass Effect Initiation by N.K. Jemisin and Mac Walters, and then Mass Effect Annihilation by Catherine N. Valente. Then you have an interactive novel. So Mass Effect Pick Your Path is an unofficial popular interactive fiction novel written by Mike Kayada that runs parallel to the events of Mass Effect 2, follows the exploits of an unnamed Citadel merchant who chases Commander Shepard around the galaxy to gain endorsement for his shop. And then there are 11 Dark Horse comics, all going into various connecting to various games. There is a film announced. It was announced in 2010 by Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers. They acquired the rights in 2010 with the game's executive producer Casey Hudson, as well as Ray Muzikia, Greg Zeshuk from BioWare serving as executive producers. Initially, Legendary planned to produce the film with Thomas Tull, John Jasani, Avi Arad, which is a scary name to see attached to things because he kind of does really bad movies all the time, and a screenplay by Mart Prosevich. It was essentially Prosevich and the producers have stated that the film will follow the plot of the original game. As of 2012, Variety announced that Morgan Davis Full would be writing the screenplay. And then in February of 2021, it is assumed.
I was like, you are putting a lot of like a weight on some of these words right now.
This is assumed that Henry Cavill will be in Mass Effect, in an adaptation of Mass Effect or Mass Effect 3.
If we've ever had anything that is a scoop-like leak of whatever else,
sir,
or grass, it would be this thing.
Sir, they unscrambled the blurred image. I don't want him to play Shepard. I want him to be Garrus. I want him to be Garrus very bad. I also just want Henry Cavill to be living his best nerdy life, and I want this for him. I don't want Mass Effect for me, Matt. I want Mass Effect for Henry.
I just want it to be a TV show. I just want a damn TV show. I don't want
I don't want a movie either. They're going to mess it up if it's a movie.
I know, they're going to get 3 movies, and with the third one sucking at the ending, right?
Yeah. No, they're going to get... Anyway, but they do have one...
My choices didn't matter in the movie, damn.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you have the official Mass Effect movie, which is Mass Effect Paragon Lost, which came out in 2012. EA announced that anime distributor Funimation Entertainment and Japanese studio TO Entertainment would produce an anime film adaptation based on the series. This movie is specifically a prequel to Mass Effect 3 and follows the early career of Alliance Marine James Vega as he leads an elite special forces squad into battle against the Collectors. Side note, I wanted very hard to like Vega so that I could romance him. I hated him. I hate him so much. I don't ever want to be near this man. He's awful. He's a misogynistic piece of crap. I don't like Vega, and it bothers me.
It's such a waste of a seemingly brown character. Yeah. It's so annoying, dude. It's so annoying.
It's so bad.
He's so like stereotype. Like he's like a caricature of like what a person is. Like it's so bad.
It's very bad.
I was saying, someone who's had a crush on Freddie Prinze Jr. most of their life. I just wanted to romance Freddie Prinze Jr. and Nope. Game wouldn't let me.
Can't do it. And then apparently, if you do romance him, fun fact, he makes a note to how you're abusing your power. And then So don't do it, guys. Just avoid Vega. He's stationed at a colony in a remote star system. Vega and his soldiers must protect the civilians from a ruthless invasion by the Collectors, determined to capture the population for unknown purposes. And then there are 2 board games, which are just adaptations, or like skins of Mass Effect. There is a Risk Mass Effect Galaxy War Edition, and then a Monopoly Mass Effect game. And then there are a few art books.
I have both those.
Yeah. A D&D like 5e style kind of like thing for Mass Effect would be so fun.
I would play a D&D homebrew of that. Like,
yeah, that
there's
has to be out there, obviously, but that sounds like something that I would do for sure.
The 3rd episode of Massively Affected, we actually talk about that and debate, because there's a bunch of podcasts that do like that do D&D their own homebrews and stuff like that, but we actually had to debate like what actually would make for a good D&D experience.
What does D&D stand for again?
Dungeons and Dragons.
That's not space.
No, That being
Go
said,
away, Matt.
that being said, I've wanted to play a D&D-esque version. You know, I want to do a version of that for Mass Effect as long as I can remember. So
I had to listen to everybody shit talk all the swords and magic here, and all of a sudden now Dungeons and Dragons, we gotta go to space.
There's
there's
mechanics.
Omniblades and there's biotics. Those are
Yeah, so if you're listening and you wanna put us through I don't know, a D&D style in space without the swords, let us know, because I would totally be down for a one shot for that. Even if it's just like a one shot where I get to
I
be.
hope you all shoot like stormtroopers.
Look, man, as someone who went through a thing with Grant for Star Wars, it works. It works. Space stuff works in this thing. It's fun.
The space opera.
Space opera, there you go.
On Legend, so the final but why though is the Legendary Edition. Just to kind of end on this note. So on November 7th.
Wait. I googled it. There is no musical for anyone wondering, but the music is fantastic in this game. But also probably really hard to do a musical about a game that has like a million choices.
The music is stunning. I used to listen to the Mass Effect 3 soundtrack all the time. I love it.
That ambiance is a great.
Very
my
good.
prime writing music.
So
if I'm
good.
looking to do any creative writing, that's usually what I put on.
So good.
Y'all like elevators.
You know what?
Yeah,
I do enjoy that elevator, sir. And yeah, so fun fact is that N7 Day is November 7th. It was first declared such in 2012 by BioWare as an annual worldwide celebration of the Mass Effect media franchise. And that in 2020 was when the Legendary Edition was announced. Everybody lost their collective shits, me included. And they stated that the goal of the remaster was not to remake or reimagine the original games, but to modernize the experience so that fans and new players can experience the original work in the best possible form. The remaster also features all previously released downloadable content, enhanced textures, shaders, models, effects, and textual features of the three enormous games. However, due to Mass Effect 1's age, it had received the most extensive work for the Legendary Edition, to which BioWare compared its quality to that of a remake, while stating that the other two games were still solidly remasters.
They say all DLC, but just to be clear, Pinnacle Station, you will not be remembered at all, because that did not make it in, and I'm really good without it. So.
But yeah, and that's it. I mean, Josh, have you started playing the Legendary Edition?
Yep, I am 25 hours or so in. I absolutely beyond love it. It's been a blast to play. They've definitely changed a lot about Mass Effect 1. It's wild, because the last time I played through Mass Effect 1, or attempted to, I got bogged down with the fact that I just was like, I wasn't enjoying the combat, and the game felt hard, and all the loading screens were too long. I don't know what they did to combat, but the game on normal is very easy, and it's in an enjoyable sort of way. There's stuff you still can get into issues and things, but it's been nice. But what's been most interesting for me is how much I'm not bothered by traveling anymore in the game, because it no longer takes a minute, to do literally everything. There's still loading screens that take a while, but I used to hate talking to my crew after like the 5th or 6th playthrough, because that elevator on the Normandy, you could literally go to the bathroom and come back and you're still in there. Now it feels like you're going down one floor. It's amazing. It's so nice to just be able to, I'm just going to pop down, sell some stuff to the guy, talk to all my people, go back up, and we're back on a mission. So, I'm loving my experience.
What are you playing it on, Josh, if you don't mind my asking?
PS5.
PS5, okay.
Yeah, it's been good. I've heard the PC version is faster for the
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So it sounds like they just made everything faster just in general. So that's why I decided, do I play it on PC, do I play it on console? But if it's running fast on console, I'm about it.
It's there's been a few hiccups here and there, stuff like that, but the PS5 version, PS4 version, has been great. I picked it up because my feeling was I 100%ed the trilogy on for achievements. I'm gonna platinum it for trophies now.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. As someone who came into like the game way late, everyone's telling me like to download all this downloadable content and stuff like that. But in the late 20 teens, it's kind of like annoying to go buy Xbox 360 content. So I picked up like their base games from like the video game shop down the street. Not quite a Hollywood Video, but kind of similar, very dying breed of video game store. But it worked out great. But if I get to play all the stuff, there's really no reason to go back to play that old playthrough. So
yeah,
I'm glad they just gave it to everybody. We don't have to pay extra for more things that
I mean, it gave you everything. It's literally like the promotional items. All the armors from Mass Effect 2 that you had to like buy Dr. Peppers
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
play the Kingdom of
That's
Amalur
awesome.
demo or whatever. You get everything, and it's so nice as somebody who literally has all that crap. The physical items I had to buy over the years just sitting around here. A box of Mass Effect 3 action figures over there.
So yeah, that's all I had. So if we want to go into, I guess, final thoughts, Josh, you will be last. Our guests always go last so they can close out the show. My final thought is this whole damn episode. Mass Effect 3 was good. These characters are phenomenal, and I can't wait to actually get to play it again because I have not started playing the Legendary Edition yet. Sadly, because I haven't had time. Matt?
You want me to go first?
Yes, so we can
Okay.
we can clean it all up.
We gotta
with the rest.
sandwich it. We gotta
All right,
sandwich
all right. One, this is still the most overrated franchise out there. Not that I don't think it's a good franchise. I just think it's overrated. Whether the fact that you basically have a trilogy and you basically are stuck within that trilogy because you can't go anywhere else, or the fact that your game still has not even outsold, your franchise hadn't even outsold Skyrim, and you barely
Because
sold 20 million
Skyrim is on
copies.
every console imaginable.
Well, so is this one at this point. Still not remotely
It's not
close.
on Alexa, sir.
And the mechanics of just being janky. The combat's terrible. Obviously,
Hat
as Josh,
first.
once again, you're selling me that these are masterpieces and the greatest thing ever. Their combat's terrible.
I definitely shouldn't have asked you to be on here. You're making me sad.
That's fine. The skills are boring, and your characters, while it's cool, it ends up at some point. Do people just want a dating sim? Because I don't know what all people want to do other than just talk to them and screw their alien friends.
I explicitly said that I don't want to screw all of my alien friends, sir. Anyway,
I mean, it is
Adrian,
what it
clean
is.
up
It's
this
fine,
mess.
but it
Clean
just-
up this
it
mess.
hasn't-
Clean up this mess, Adrian.
For me, I think, I mean, this is a game that, Kate had told me about for years, like since we were friends, and I just finally got into it, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to get back into it because I like a game that can do both. It's why I like Baldur's Gate 3 so much, because you have cool combat stuff where you get to go shoot people and things like that, but then you get to go back to the camp and kind of talk to people. And I think it's an improvement on the things that were laid in. It's a lot of the reasons why I like Mass Effect is because I really like Knights of the Old Republic, and Mass Effect improves on all those things and gives you more options to do things. So whether it's a lightsaber or a space pistol, the games are fun, and I think the conversations around them are really cool to listen to. Even if I only have 99% of one playthrough gone through, it's interesting to see how everyone else's playthrough is different, and I think that's just like a marker of a good franchise, a good game, because the ending is always going to be, or the journey is always different for everybody, which is not always the case for a lot of games in here. And I'm glad that they released this Legendary Edition with all the stuff, because they could have very well been like, okay, we'll now purchase this DLC stuff. That could have definitely been a thing. We've seen that with video games in the last 5 years doing stuff like that. So I appreciate it for what it is in terms of an RPG game, and also the conversation that it kind of facilitates. Like this one, whether it's overrated or not, that's a conversation that we're having. It's not we hate this game or we love this game. There's conversations to be had about the various aspects of the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, what do I mean? I don't even. I had a complete prepared thought, and Matt.
Because Matt came crashing
No,
in
I
and
mean,
said,
for
how
me,
dare this
with-
game be what it says that it is?
No, but with Mass Effect, I mean,
RPG,
obviously,
terrible.
Mass Effect has been an important aspect about a lot of things for me. But what stands out the most for what stands out the most for Mass Effect for me is it's kind of building off what Adrian said. So Mass Effect is all these different stories, all these different things that we've done, and all these different experiences. Whenever I go to an event, this is what I was trying to get to. I finally remembered. So whenever I go to an event, I have these instances with people. Almost every event, I have one night where just some random person, some random game industry person or game industry adjacent person, Mass Effect comes out. Either they see the constant calibrating logo back when I used to do that, and they're like, oh, does that have anything to do with Garrus? Or I'm wearing one of my damn hoodies or something like that. Mass Effect comes up in conversation, and I have like an hour-long drunk or not drunken conversation with somebody about choices, and there's always a thing where it's just like, wow, I didn't know that could happen, or I didn't know that could happen, or those kinds of things. And that's what I like about Mass Effect, and that's why this series has longevity, because people think that Mass Effect is my favorite series, that they're my favorite games. They're not. my favorite world, like pop culture world, is Dragon Age Thetis. And as far as favorite games go, Mass Effect, I don't know if any of the Mass Effect games are even in my top 5. But it's the Mass Effect world. It is the impact Mass Effect has had, for better or worse. That is why I follow the franchise, which is why I come back to the franchise, which is why I am interested in so much, and it's why I started a podcast about it, because that matters to me.
I think that's important.
I like it.
I like it too. So, if you listen to this and you want to support us a little bit more, head on over to patreon.com/butwhythoughpc. If you want to get involved in the conversation, head on over to our Discord, discord.gg/butwhythough. And you can follow us on all of our social media at butwhythoughpc. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming on and talking with us and sharing your love. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, your work, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blast. I'm glad I got to finally join you guys for something, and got to talk Mass Effect. Got to tell Matt to shut up. So it's
I'm used to it at this point with everybody.
It was met from a place of love. But no, so you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Bear Punch, and that's where anything I'm talking about, any thoughts related to things, you'll see me talking there. And then the podcast, Massively Affected, is a brand new podcast on But Why Though? So, go to the website. You can check it out there. But you can also find that on every podcast service, and it's on Twitter at Mass Affected Pod. A, not E in this case.
You were so great at making Twitter handles.
I guess. I literally, I think that's the first time I've promoted the show where I actually said the correct handle without having to look it up, because my brain cannot remember what it is.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter, where I'm probably still yelling about Castlevania, but I think I've got that all out of my system now, so I'll just start playing some Mass Effect and keep it all to myself, because I don't want your discourse. Adrian?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Superruiz93, SUPERRUIZ 93.
Matt?
Fallout has almost doubled the sales of Mass Effect entire franchise, so is Guitar Hero. I can keep going, but just the fact that there's now 2. So
Esports, consoles off. People care about story, Matt. If they didn't care about story, they wouldn't have gone to the Better Business Bureau because the story ended bad.
Thanks, you ruined everything from after 2011.
To just not talk to anybody. That's what he wants.
That's fine. I don't have to talk to anybody. But no, overall, I don't know.
Stop
I get
talking.
it, but...
Josh, your turn.
Jason! Cut it all out.